It's time to talk Jazz basketball with the CEO of the Utah Jazz and NBA legend, Danny Ainge. With Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5. The KSL Sports Zone.
Danny Ainge, kind enough to join us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Danny, how you doing?
Hey, Danny.
I'm good. How are you guys today? Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Hey, how important are these early MTEs in college basketball to get a grasp on who these guys are? Do you learn a little bit more about these guys in these kind of situations?
Well, I don't know how important each one of the games are, but it's sure nice when you have to go travel to follow teams around all the rest of the year to see and hear, and it's that you come in and you get to see 18 teams in one setting over a few day period. So that's a lot easier, a lot nicer just to be able to get to see them physically. And so now when you go the rest of the year and you're watching film, you've had a chance to see how they interact and with their teammates, their coaches, just the whole personal touch, their bodies, how athletic. Now it's easier to watch film the rest of the year.
Danny, how often do you get a call from an old teammate or an old NBAer or somebody you're familiar with that says, hey, Danny, I got to have you look at this guy. I got to have you look at my kid. I need you to look at this. Does that happen to you a lot?
It happens some. It feels like, coming into draft time, it happens more than any other time. But, yeah, everybody's anxious, and some people just are completely oblivious to how hard it is to get here.
Well, because I keep thinking I'm a big nobody, and I get my old teammates who have high schoolers, and they call me, and they're like, hey, Hans, you gotta tweet this, man. Hey, come out and watch this kid. Hey, you got to see this kid. And I'm a big nobody. And I'm like, man, I bet Danny just gets bombarded with people saying, hey, you got to watch my kid.
Yeah, a funny story with Austin, my son, who's now with us in the Jazz. I remember when he came out of college and he was with us in the draft process, and he couldn't believe that players that he had played against in college that were big names and all conference, et cetera, had zero chance. Weren't even discussed in the draft process. And it's an awakening for most people that come into the draft.
Are there certain schools and certain head coaches, and you don't need to name names, but certain college coaches and programs where a guy's coming out of that institution, you're like, all right, I'm going to give him a little bit of an edge just because I like the system and I like what's been asked. I know what's been asked of him in the collegiate level?
Yeah, I would say no on that, but I do recognize and acknowledge that there are some coaches that I wish every kid could play for, that just play harder and tougher. They're held more accountable. But I think that there's enough good coaches in college, at the bigger programs, that there's not a huge separation from the very best coach to the 30th best coach, probably. But yeah, there's some bad coaches out there.
You mentioned how difficult it is to get to the league, and I was thinking about it just looking at my son who's currently on a mission and his chances of getting to the NFL, being a third-generation Olsen, and then looking at you and when you came into the NBA. I just feel like nowadays, Danny, to be a professional athlete, I feel like it's 5 times more difficult than it was when I came into the NFL, maybe even more difficult with the NBA because the emergence of the European player. How difficult is it for these guys to make it nowadays?
Well, it is hard. That's why, you see first-team All-Americans that don't make it sometimes. The college game and the European game are different than the NBA game, and with spacing especially, and I think that it's just a difficult transition to make. But I don't know if it's harder. I mean, in the earlier days, it was 23 teams and 12 players per team, and now you have 30 teams and 18 players per team, so there's a lot more spots available. But, yeah, it's a worldwide game more and more, and there's more people playing in the young leagues. So, yes, it is every bit the challenge it always has been.
As a evaluator of talent, with essentially college is almost a completely different game than the NBA because of the spacing and the lack of freedom of movement. So how hard is that to project what a guy will do, like VJ Edgecombe, has a really good college career, but now he's blowing up at the NBA level because of that system that allows him to really accentuate his skill set. So how hard is that to project, okay, he did this in college, but boy, when he comes here, he's going to do this?
Well, I think BJ Edgecombe, as an example, was pretty well projected by unanimously every team in the league. I don't think he was so hard to project. He's a tremendous athlete, and turning out to be a very good player at a young age is not shocking for most of us that have watched him play.
Hey, Danny, you've been a part of a lot of things that ramp up anxiety, take a lot of effort and energy, and you've had a lot of accomplishments. Where does the Elite Eight for you rank back in 1981? Last time BYU made it to an Elite Eight. How tough is it to get there? What's it like when you get there? And how much does that sit on your mind? Or how fresh is that memory for you?
Vance, like most of my life, I wish I wasn't this way to this extent, but I remember the losses more than the wins. I didn't feel like it was an amazing accomplishment. It was, beating Notre Dame team was a lot of fun, and beating UCLA, they were two very highly ranked teams with, I think UCLA had 7 NBA players on it, the team that we beat that year. And Notre Dame, I think, had 5, I don't want to exaggerate here, but I think 5 first-round picks on their team that year. So I feel like, those were great accomplishments, but just making it was not, it wasn't like we accomplished anything. It felt like we lost to Virginia to get to the Final Four, which was a bigger goal. And Virginia was a great team. But yeah, those were fun times. And I look back on them and think, I can look back now and say that was fun. It was a great year, but we just came up short.
Does it shock you that you're the last one that made it to an Elite Eight in BYU history?
I am surprised
because
they've had some good teams. They've had some good teams that probably deserved it or could have made it that far. But I feel like, some injuries, and et cetera. But I think Jimmer's team was really good. And, losing one of their best players going into the postseason, that's never good.
Danny Ainge joining us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jazz coming off a tough loss to the Lakers, and then, of course, a tough loss to the Golden State Warriors as well. How do you feel like your team is heading in this heading right now, and how do you feel like things are coming together at this point of the season when you've got a month under your belt right now?
Well, the season, there's a lot of ups and downs, and I think that we put a lot into that Laker comeback.
Yeah.
They outplayed us most of the game, but I think Will is doing a really good job with the guys, and I feel like they're playing hard, and he's trying to experiment and figure out which lineups can work and how to accentuate our best players and put an emphasis on them. But I feel like it's going pretty good. I'm enjoying watching. I feel like Ace is coming along. We've had a couple of guys. EJ had a big game yesterday in the G League. No, it was on Monday, but I'm excited about what is going on. Actually, I see some really good things and very positive about it.
Certainly once Keyont George. It's got to be Danny.
Sorry, I lost you there.
I said one of them has to be Keyont George at this point with his development. Yeah,
Keontae's having a fantastic year, and more than just the offensive output and the assists, but defensively, he's playing better. And again, I think that Will is doing a really good job, and his whole staff of just holding the players accountable and taking them out when they're not playing defense. They're not running back in transition. They're missing the box out. We got a lot of young players that are not doing, and veterans too. Veterans aren't without making mistakes. And I thought the Golden State game was just kind of a blah game. That was a little bit disappointing. It wasn't. There were some good moments in it for sure, especially with Keontae early in the game and Ace with some really good plays. But I feel like, defensively we took a big step backwards in the last three quarters of that game.
So this day and age of YouTube and social media, people can drag up old quotes really quick. And sometimes you'll hear something that somebody said a few years ago. You're like, wow, I don't even remember that. My kid the other day, my 14-year-old, who's a sports nut, was going through some YouTube clips, and he was just powering through a bunch of them, and he sees an old interview in which you and I think Charles Barkley weighed in and talked about an NBA player that not a lot of people remember or give the credit to that he deserves, but you said that you feared him as much as anybody was Andrew Toney. Talk a little bit about what he was like as a player and why he was so difficult back in the day.
Well, when I got to Boston, he was, I think someone had given him the nickname of the Boston Strangler.
Oh, jeez.
And, but what I remember about Andrew was very underrated player, by the way, and historically in the NBA. I mean, he just didn't have a long career because of a foot issue and foot injury. But Andrew was so tough mentally and so physical, and a great shooter, a great shot creator in one-on-one situations. And yeah, he was a fantastic player. And he destroyed us in a few games. And it was unfortunate that his career ended short, because I think we'd all know who Andrew Toney is.
Well, Danny, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us, and always thanks for going down memory lane with us, too. I love picking your brain on old 80s and 90s NBA, too.
Yeah, and have a great Thanksgiving, Danny.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving, you guys, too. Talk to you later.
You got it. Danny Ainge right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.